this offensive line that might give some teams struggles this year?
It's a veteran group, strong, powerful, athletic. They got a good, cohesive culture under Trout. I think they're going to be difficult for anyone to deal with. They work really well together and they know the system.
Jim, I asked you a couple weeks ago about that fifth DB spot and Zion Tracy specifically. What have you seen from him the last couple weeks now that he's been participating more?
I think Zion's doing great. I think he's got all the tools to be excellent at that position with all the things we ask him. The other guy is Kenny Woseley. Kenny Woseley he's a real playmaker. He's smaller, but he's got that football sense, football intelligence. So I think he's going to be a real factor at that position also.
How much do you rotate at that spot during games?
Depends, right? Depends if a guy's close to being a starter, we'll rotate. If there's separation, we won't.
Jim, Coach Fangio was just talking about Chaz Coleman. I think that's somebody that you identified recently as somebody who's having a pretty strong preseason. What have you seen from him, and what do you like about him as a first-year player?
He's crazy athletic and explosive. And for a freshman, he plays really hard. Like he plays to the echo of the whistle, chases the ball all over the place. I call him the Chasmanian Devil. He's that kind of kid he is, and he's very mature for his age, and he wants to learn, and he doesn't like making mistakes. He's smart, so he's a guy that can help us.
Jim, Penn State is an opponent, but has it lived up to what you thought this defense would be, and what's impressed you so far through 10 and 11 practices?
Guys are serious about what they do. They're competitive and always competing in practice. So that's been very impressive to me. Of course, we gotta still earn everything, So a lot is left to be seen. But so far, from what I've seen, I like the way that they compete, every day.
What was the driving factor in you coming here, and has that part of the job lived up to what you expected it to be?
Absolutely. I grew up a Penn State fan, and it was a place that I always thought was like the pinnacle of college football. And, it always impressed me as a very tight-knit community, and that's all lived up to what I thought.
You mentioned Chaz. Can you talk about some of the other young D-linemen who may have to step up and do some things? We know about Dani and Israel. We've seen a lot of him, but who are the other kids?
Yeah, Yvonne. I think Yvonne has shown a lot of toughness and strength at the point of attack. Randy impressed me in the spring. I think it's hard for a freshman to play on the defensive line because, that's where you get the biggest physical disparity. So, still remains to be seen. I think Chaz is a guy who has stood out so far as a guy who can play, he can handle his own.
Just going with that, I know that every defensive coordinator wants a DN that can do it all, right? But when it comes to your defense and, size, maybe pass rushing ability, what are the important things for a defensive end to contribute? Do you need to have that physicality and size on the edge, or can you work with guys that are speed rushers and a little bit smaller?
Yeah, we can work with guys if they at least, like you said, display one. If they at least display one talent where they can handle things at this level, then we can find ways to rotate them in. If they can do it now. If they can do both run and pass, that's a big bonus.
What can you tell us about the strong safety spot right now, and particularly Dejuan Lane and King Mack, where they are in the battle? How close do you think you'd be naming a starter?
Yeah, we're not close yet. There's still a lot that remains to be seen. They're both having good camps, and I think a guy who's been on the rise is Belgrave Shorter. We're going to play the best guy. If you play two safeties, you're going to play the best two. So I think all three of those guys are in competition for that second spot.
Dan Connor's moving into a coaching role for the first time. What have you seen from him going into this season in his first camp and how he's handling the group?
Yeah, really smart. Has the NFL experience. He knows how to pass along the individual technique. So he's smart enough to figure out what I'm trying to do and then pass it on to the players. in a way that the players can relate to because he's had that experience, you know, of going to the NFL, playing for different teams, you know, and trying to teach the players, look, you know, you want to have an NFL career, you're going to move teams, new coordinators, new defenses, and he's kind of teaching them how to learn.
You mentioned the culture of the cornerback room on media day, especially considering all the institutional knowledge that Terry Smith has. How big of a resource has he been for you?
Terry's great. I mean, he's like the ultimate teammate, right? Because he doesn't have any ego. He's all about the team, and then he runs his own position room best than any position coach I've ever seen in terms of how demanding he is and his expectations. And you see it in how the kids play and how they compete.
You have 3 linebackers who have played a lot, but I assume you're going to need some of the younger kids to step up for depth. Is anybody kind of flashing that you feel that you could count on yet, or are you still waiting to see?
No, nobody I can count on yet. You know, you're right. We got those 3, and I can count on and trust those guys. And then there's competition. You know, then there's competition. Keon, Specker. Tash, again, for a true freshman, has shown some things that make you think he's going to be very good in the future. Is he going to be good enough to help us this year? I don't know yet, but he is in competition. And all those guys, we need someone, or all of them, to separate themselves.
How important are these last couple weeks then with respect to that position in particular?
Absolutely. They're going to get all the reps, you know, because you don't want the ones tackling a lot. So they're going to get all the reps because we have to try to push them to see who can really step up.
Are you comfortable only having 3 linebackers on a game day?
No. We certainly. I mean, I've done it plenty, you know, but I'm not comfortable with it.
In your defense, do people make too much of IDing the linebackers as Mike, Will, and Sam, or is there more flexibility, I guess is what I'm getting at, between those positions?
Yeah, there's flexibility. There's a lot of flexibility. It's not like the old days with a Mike linebacker who does certain things, you know. It's because the formations are all different now. So the Mike linebacker ends up in space also. So you know that's really kind of been thrown out the window.
How much does your menu, so to speak, change on game days, and how much does it shrink? You know, like what do you have at your disposal compared to the entire?
It just depends on how much the kids can handle. You know, I mean that's why you go through these camps to see what they can handle. You know, make mistakes. Can they get it corrected? Do they know it? You know, do they know it enough to teach it? Do they know it enough to do it in front of 107,000? You know, and that's your menu. You know, you're only going to call the things that they know.
Where's that at right now compared to where you want it to be?
It's, you know, still got a long way to go.
What's impressed you the most about Dani, and are there any other former players that you've coached in the past that maybe compare to him, or just kind of the prototypical build and skill set that he has?
He's, you know, Dani compares to guys I've had at Ohio State, you know, guys who can do it all. You know, Dani is one of those players who's strong enough to play the run, but yet quick enough and talented enough to be a pass rusher. You know, so I really feel like he has it all.
You've talked before about calling plays on defense. What are some of the guys that you're thinking about when you're thinking about scheming up a play? Like, are there guys that say that to you about, I'm going to call something for X to make a play or for Y?
Yeah, I'm not going to give that away right now, but you're right. I mean, we're still learning exactly, and that's how you, just like you said, you got to identify the guys who can make plays, and there's enough in the schemes that you can kind of pinpoint certain guys, but I think guys still got to prove it.
Thank you. I'm going through a lot of the younger guys. D-tackle, again, we know Zane. We're hearing good things about Ford, but again, you're going to need some young kids to step up,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Ford's been impressive to me because I wasn't around in the spring. He's been impressive. Xavier Gillum's been very impressive. Very impressive. You know. And then there's a bunch of guys just really competing. You know. Wayful is competing. Ty Blanding is competing. You know. So there's enough good there's enough good players there. I think after those first two, Xavier really stands up the most.
What's kind of left for you the last couple weeks? What are the keys for the defense in general? For as a coordinator, what do you need to get dialed in?
Like I said, you know, we're trying to put things in. You rep them to see if they get them, if they click. You know, so and there's a lot going on out there because our offense throws a lot of different formations at us. So you get to see every day what they really know and don't know. Because it's not what they can tell you in the meeting room; it's what they can actually put on the grass and on video, right? So that's really what I'm just trying to see is what they know. What they know.
Coach, I know you're the defensive coordinator, but who stood out on offense in those scrimmages that they're tough to stop, whether a skilled guy or an offensive lineman that's just not giving up any pressure?
Yeah. I really couldn't tell you anyone particular because I'm focused on the offense. I know they all look pretty damn good to me. So, I mean, yeah, they all look good.
Thanks, Jim.